Life becomes heavy when the mind refuses to rest. Not because your responsibilities are too great, not because your dreams are too ambitious, but because somewhere along the way, you began to believe that everything depends on how tightly you hold it together. You monitor every detail. You replay conversations in your head. You calculate outcomes before they even happen. You try to predict how people will respond, how opportunities will unfold, how long it will take before your effort finally pays off. And in doing so, you exhaust yourself long before life ever has a chance to test you. What if the very tension you think is helping you succeed is the same tension blocking what you want? Most people believe manifestation is about thinking harder, visualizing more intensely, pushing with greater force. But the Stoics understood something far more powerful. The mind that grasps desperately cannot receive calmly. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the tranquility of the soul depends on ordering the mind correctly, not controlling the world, not forcing circumstances, but mastering perception, because the world does not disturb us. Our judgments about it do, and this is where everything begins to shift. You do not manifest from chaos. You manifest from clarity. When your mind is restless, you act from fear. When you act from fear, your energy becomes scattered. You say yes to things you do not truly want. You chase people who pull away. You overwork in ways that drain rather than elevate you. You grip the steering wheel of life so tightly that you forget roads are meant to be traveled, not strangled. But when your mind relaxes, something changes. Your decisions slow down. Your reactions soften. Your presence strengthens. And ironically, the very things you once chased begin moving toward you. This is not mysticism. It is alignment. Epictetus taught that we suffer not because of events, but because of our attachment to how we believe events should unfold. That attachment creates internal resistance, and resistance creates tension, and tension clouds judgment. Look closely at your life. How many of your frustrations are born from reality itself? And how many are born from your refusal to accept reality as it currently is? There is a quiet power in releasing the demand that life must move according to your schedule. The moment you stop arguing with the present stops feeling like your enemy. And from that space, manifestation becomes effortless. Because now you are not acting to escape fear. You are acting from grounded intention. Consider the difference between desperation and certainty. Desperation whispers, I need this to happen or I will fall behind. Certainty says, I will do my part and I trust the unfolding. Desperation tightens your chest. Certainty expands it. One repels, the other attracts. The Stoics were not passive thinkers. They did not sit back and wait for fate to deliver comfort. They acted with discipline, clarity, and courage, but they did so without emotional chaos. They understood the dichotomy of control. Some things are within your power, and others never were. Your thoughts, within your power. Your effort, within your power. Your character, within your power. Timing, not fully. Other people's choices, not fully. External recognition, not fully. The moment you confuse these categories, anxiety begins. You try to control outcomes instead of refining actions. You try to secure affection instead of becoming secure within yourself. You try to predict the future instead of strengthening your present. And your mind never rests. Relaxing your mind does not mean lowering your standards. It means removing unnecessary resistance. It means recognizing that your inner state influences your outer results more than frantic action ever could. Think about the times in your life when things flowed naturally, when conversations felt easy, when opportunities appeared unexpectedly, when your confidence was steady rather than forced. In those moments, you were not obsessing. You were aligned. Alignment is not about controlling every variable. It is about becoming stable enough internally that external movement no longer destabilizes you. When your mind is calm, you think clearly. When you think clearly, you act wisely. When you act wisely, results compound. Most people reverse this order. They chase results to feel calm. But calm is the cause, not the reward. Seneca once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Your mind creates scenarios that have not happened. It builds stories of rejection, failure, humiliation, and your body responds as if those imagined threats are real. Your heart races. Your sleep weakens. Your focus fractures. All because of thoughts you never pause to question. To relax your mind is to question the narrative before it controls you. Is this fear factual? Is this urgency necessary? Is this outcome truly within my authority? These questions create space. And in that space, clarity grows. Manifestation, in its truest sense, is not about demanding that the universe obey you. It is about removing the internal noise that prevents you from recognizing opportunity when it arrives. You cannot see clearly through a shaking lens. And right now, for many people, the mind is shaking constantly. Notifications, comparisons, deadlines, expectations, social pressure, the quiet fear that you are not moving fast enough. But growth does not respond to panic. It responds to presence. The oak tree does not rush its expansion. The river does not force its current. Nature unfolds through rhythm, not anxiety. And you are not separate from that rhythm. The more you align your thoughts with discipline and acceptance, the more stable your inner world becomes. And when your inner world becomes stable, your external world begins to reorganize around that stability, not because of magic, but because of clarity. You speak differently when you are calm. You negotiate differently when you are secure. You love differently when you are not afraid of loss. Relaxing your mind is not weakness. It is preparation. Preparation for focused action. Preparation for aligned decisions. Preparation for receiving what frantic energy once blocked. The paradox is simple. When you stop chasing from fear, you start attracting from strength. And this is only the beginning. Why racing cannot recall the mind that is constantly opportunity, even when it stands directly in front of it. Most people believe their problem is a lack of resources, a lack of connections, a lack of luck. But far more often, the real problem is internal noise. A restless mind misinterprets neutral events as threats. It reads silence as rejection. It reads delay as failure. It reads redirection as loss. And because of this distorted interpretation, it reacts impulsively. Reaction is different from response. Reaction is immediate, emotional, unexamined. Response is measured, intentional, chosen. The Stoics trained themselves to respond. They understood that between stimulus and action lies a space. And in that space exists freedom. If you cannot access that space, your life will always feel like a series of uncontrollable waves crashing over you. But when you learn to widen that space, even by a few seconds, you begin reclaiming power. Imagine receiving a message that triggers insecurity. The old version of you reacts instantly, overanalyzes tone, sends a defensive reply, creates tension that did not need to exist. But a relaxed mind pauses. It observes emotion without immediately obeying it. It questions whether the interpretation is accurate. It remembers that not every delay carries hidden meaning. And often, in that pause, the storm dissolves on its own. This is not suppression. It is discipline. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are frantic, your life feels frantic. If your thoughts are grounded, your life stabilizes. And here's where manifestation quietly begins. Because when your thoughts stabilize, your behavior stabilizes. And when your behavior stabilizes, your results become consistent rather than chaotic. Consistency is magnetic. People trust it. Opportunities respect it. Progress requires it. A restless person starts 10 projects and finishes 2. A calm person chooses carefully and completes steadily. Over time, the second individual appears luckier, but luck is often a visible reward of invisible stability. Relaxing your mind does not mean doing less. It means doing fewer things with deeper focus. There's a profound difference. Consider how many desires you are currently holding. Financial success, emotional intimacy, physical transformation, social validation, recognition, peace. None of these are wrong. But when you try to pursue all of them from a state of internal urgency, your energy fragments. And fragmented energy produces fragmented outcomes. The Stoics practice voluntary discomfort not to punish themselves, but to reduce dependence. When you prove to yourself that you can endure uncertainty, your nervous system calms. You stop clinging to outcomes as if they are life rafts. And this shift changes everything. When you no longer act from, I must have this or I am incomplete, Your presence changes. You speak from sufficiency, not scarcity. You negotiate from patience, not fear. You pursue goals from purpose, not insecurity. Scarcity contracts the mind. Abundance expands it. Scarcity says, there is not enough time, not enough opportunity, not enough love. Abundance says, I will prepare myself, and what aligns will come. This does not mean you become passive. It means you stop bargaining with the future. Think about how often you delay peace until something happens. I'll relax when I get the promotion. I'll feel secure when they commit. I'll feel confident when I look different. But peace postponed is peace denied. And the irony is this. The external achievements you seek are far easier to attain when peace precedes them rather than follows them. A calm mind interviews better. A calm mind performs better. A calm mind builds stronger relationships because it is not seeking approval. It is expressing clarity. Epictetus warned against attaching your happiness to what is not yours to control. When you do, you hand strangers authority over your inner state. You become dependent on unpredictable variables. Relaxation is the reclamation of authority. It is a decision that your emotional equilibrium will not fluctuate wildly with every external shift, that your worth is not recalculated daily based on other people's responses, that your direction will not be abandoned because of temporary obstacles. This level of stability is rare, and because it is rare, it is powerful. Most people operate from reaction, so when you operate from response, you immediately differentiate yourself. Imagine two individuals facing rejection. One spirals into self-doubt, questions their value, abandons their plan. The other evaluates, adjusts, continues steadily, who eventually manifests success. Not the one who avoids rejection, but the one who metabolizes it calmly. To relax your mind is to increase your resilience. Resilience is not loud. It does not announce itself. It simply persists. And persistence, guided by clarity, is unstoppable over time. But how do you practically cultivate this state? First, observe your internal dialogue. Not to judge it, but to understand it. Notice how frequently your mind jumps ahead into imagined futures. Notice how often it replays past conversations, searching for errors. Awareness interrupts automation. Second, narrow your focus. Choose one meaningful direction and commit to it with patience. The scattered mind cannot build anything durable. Third, practice acceptance deliberately. Each day will contain elements you did not plan. Traffic, delays, unexpected conversations, minor disappointments. Treat these moments as training sessions. If you cannot remain steady during small disruptions, large ones will destabilize you completely. The Stoics rehearsed adversity mentally so that reality would not shock them. They prepared for inconvenience so that inconvenience would not control them. When you stop expecting life to be frictionless, friction stops feeling unfair. And when friction stops feeling unfair, it stops draining your energy. You begin conserving mental strength for what truly matters. That conservation creates focus. Focus creates progress. Progress reinforces calm. And calm deepens alignment. The cycle reverses itself. Instead of anxiety feeding poor decisions, clarity feeds wise ones. Instead of urgency creating mistakes, patience creates precision. Relax your mind, and you do not slow your progress. You refine it. You do not abandon ambition. You purify it. You do not lose control. You understand what control actually means. And once this foundation is built, the next transformation becomes possible. There is a silent illusion that keeps most people trapped. The belief that control creates security. It feels logical. If you can predict every outcome, manage every detail, anticipate every possible problem, then nothing can hurt you. At least that is what the anxious mind promises. But look carefully at your own experience. Has overthinking ever prevented pain? Has constant monitoring ever guaranteed success? Has replaying scenarios in your head ever changed what already happened? Control, when misunderstood, becomes mental captivity. The Stoics made a distinction that is simple in theory and transformative in practice. Some things are up to you, and some things are not. Your judgments, your effort, your values, these are yours. Outcomes, timing, other people's reactions, these are not fully yours. The mistake is not wanting good outcomes. The mistake is tying your inner stability to them. When your emotional state depends on external confirmation, you live in permanent tension. You're always waiting. Waiting for approval. Waiting for results. Waiting for reassurance. And waiting, when mixed with fear, becomes exhausting. But something remarkable happens when you shift your focus inward. Instead of asking, will this work out? You begin asking, did I act with integrity? Instead of asking, will they choose me? You ask, did I show up as my best self? Instead of asking, what if I fail? You ask, what can I learn? This subtle redirection pulls your power back into your hands. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, obstacles are not interruptions of your path. They are part of it. When you understand this, anxiety loses some of its intensity, because now even setbacks have purpose. Think about how much of your stress comes from resisting what already is. A delayed opportunity, a person who changed their mind, a plan that did not unfold the way you imagined. Resistance says, this should not be happening. Wisdom says, this is happening. Now what? That shift alone relaxes the nervous system. Manifestation, when viewed through a Stoic lens, is not about bending reality to your will. It is about aligning your will with reality and then acting decisively within it. There is enormous strength in this alignment. Picture a skilled sailor navigating rough waters. He does not shout at the wind. He does not demand that the ocean calm itself. He studies the currents. He adjusts the sails. He works with the conditions rather than against them. Your life operates the same way. You cannot eliminate uncertainty, but you can refine your response to it. And once you stop fighting what cannot be changed, you gain energy for what can. Energy is precious. Most people waste it arguing with the past or fearing the future. They drain themselves mentally before taking meaningful action. They arrive at opportunities already exhausted, but a relaxed mind preserves energy. It does not interpret every inconvenience as a personal attack. It does not dramatize minor setbacks into permanent disasters. It conserves strength for deliberate movement. This conservation creates momentum. Momentum is built not from bursts of panic-driven action, but from steady, composed effort. One disciplined decision after another. One focused hour after another. One intentional conversation after another. Over time, these small, calm actions compound into significant results. Yet many people sabotage this process because they confuse urgency with importance. Urgency screams. Importance whispers. Urgency tells you to check your phone again. Importance tells you to finish the task in front of you. Urgency tells you to demand clarity immediately. Importance tells you to give situations room to breathe. Urgency feeds anxiety. Importance feeds progress. The Stoics trained themselves to prioritize what truly mattered: character, discipline, wisdom. They understood that external victories without internal order lead to instability. And this is why relaxing your mind is foundational. Because if you achieve success without mental stability, you will live in constant fear of losing it. If you enter a relationship without inner security, you will suffocate it with insecurity. If you gain wealth without perspective, you will never feel satisfied. Calm is not the opposite of ambition. It is a container that protects it. When your mind is clear, you begin making decisions based on long-term alignment rather than short-term emotion. You stop sending messages you will regret. You stop accepting opportunities that conflict with your values. You stop chasing validation from people who cannot provide it. And gradually, your life becomes less chaotic. This does not mean problems disappear. It means you are no longer destabilized by them. Epictetus once said that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. If someone criticizes you, the event itself is neutral. It is your interpretation that creates pain. What if criticism became information instead of insult? What if delay became preparation instead of rejection? What if uncertainty became possibility instead of threat? These reframes are not delusion. They are discipline. The mind can be trained. Just as the body grows stronger under resistance, the mind grows stronger under reflection. Each time you pause before reacting, you strengthen composure. Each time you choose clarity over panic, you reinforce stability. and stability is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are not easily shaken. Employers trust them. Partners feel safe with them. Friends rely on them. But beyond external benefits, there is something even greater: internal freedom. When you no longer feel compelled to control every outcome, you experience lightness. You move through conversations without overanalyzing every word. You pursue goals without attaching your identity to the result. You act fully. You release gracefully. That balance is rare, and it is precisely what transforms effort into manifestation. Because when action is aligned and attachment is loosened, results often unfold with surprising ease. The more you calm your inner world, the more clearly you see opportunities in the outer one. And as this clarity deepens, another layer of transformation becomes available. There comes a point in every person's life when effort alone no longer feels like enough. You work, you plan, you visualize, you discipline yourself. And yet, progress seems slower than expected. Doubt begins to whisper. Maybe you are behind. Maybe others are ahead. Maybe you miscalculated your path. This is where most people tighten their grip. They double their anxiety. They increase self-criticism. They force longer hours, harsher routines, stricter expectations. They believe pressure will produce acceleration. But pressure without peace produces cracks. The Stoics understood something counterintuitive. Growth requires patience as much as action. Seneca wrote that nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. There is a rhythm to development that cannot be bullied. You cannot force a seed to sprout by digging it up every morning to check its progress. And yet, this is exactly what many people do with their goals. They measure too frequently. They compare too obsessively. They demand visible proof before the roots have had time to strengthen. When you relax your mind, you stop interrogating your progress every day. You commit, you act, and you allow time to participate. Time is not your enemy. It is your collaborator. But collaboration requires trust. Trust does not mean passivity. It means believing that consistent, aligned effort will compound, even when results are not immediately visible. Consider the way confidence is built. It is not built in a single moment of triumph. It is built in quiet repetitions. Showing up when you do not feel like it. Choosing discipline when distraction tempts you. Remaining composed when others panic. These small decisions accumulate internally before they ever appear externally. And when your internal foundation strengthens, your external reality begins to reflect it. Manifestation, in this sense, is less about attracting something new and more about becoming someone stable enough to sustain it. If you are constantly anxious, even success feels fragile. You fear losing it. You question whether you deserve it. You wait for something to go wrong. But when your mind is relaxed, not careless, but grounded, you carry success differently. You enjoy it without clinging. You grow it without obsessing. This internal shift alters your presence. Presence is powerful. When you enter a room without needing validation, people notice. When you speak without rushing to impress, people listen. When you pursue opportunities without desperation, doors open more naturally. Why? Because desperation creates pressure, and pressure makes others uncomfortable. Calm creates space, and space allows connection. Aristotle spoke of virtue as the balance between extremes. Courage between recklessness and cowardice. Confidence between arrogance and insecurity. Relaxing your mind is the middle path between indifference and obsession. It is caring deeply but not anxiously. It is striving boldly but not fearfully. This balance is what makes your energy steady rather than volatile. Volatile energy is unpredictable. One day motivated, the next discouraged. One moment confident, the next insecure. This inconsistency weakens momentum. But steady energy builds trust, both within yourself and in the eyes of others. You begin trusting yourself because your reactions are no longer extreme. You know you will handle setbacks with composure. You know you will not abandon your goals after temporary disappointment. That self-trust reduces anxiety significantly. Many people do not suffer from lack of ability. They suffer from lack of trust in their own resilience. They fear failure not because failure is fatal, but because they doubt their capacity to recover. Strengthening that trust changes everything. When you believe you can endure setbacks, You stop fearing them. And when fear decreases, clarity increases. Clarity sharpens decision-making. Instead of saying yes out of fear of missing out, you evaluate alignment. Instead of clinging to relationships out of loneliness, you choose companionship from wholeness. Instead of chasing every opportunity, you pursue the ones that match your long-term direction. Relaxation sharpens discernment, and discernment prevents wasted energy. Imagine how much mental space you reclaim when you stop overanalyzing every social interaction, when you stop assuming silence equals rejection, when you stop attaching your identity to temporary results. That reclaimed space can now be invested in growth. Growth thrives in stable soil. If your inner world is chaotic, even good opportunities feel overwhelming. But if your inner world is steady, challenges become stimulating rather than threatening. This is the paradox. The more relaxed your mind becomes, the more capable you feel, not because life is easier, but because you are less shaken. Epictetus reminded his students that no person is free who is not master of himself. Freedom is internal. It is the ability to choose your response despite external unpredictability. When your mind relaxes, you reclaim this freedom. You stop reacting to every comment. You stop fearing every delay. You stop magnifying every mistake. Instead, you observe, adjust, continue. And continuity is the quiet force behind every meaningful achievement. Most people underestimate the power of simply not quitting emotionally. They may continue physically, but internally they spiral. They resent delays. They doubt constantly. They mentally exhaust themselves. But the individual who remains internally composed preserves strength. That strength compounds quietly. Day after day, calm effort builds invisible progress. Skills improve. Reputation strengthens. Opportunities align. And suddenly, what once felt distant becomes attainable. From the outside, it appears sudden, but internally it was steady all along. This is why relaxing your mind is not a luxury. It is strategy. It protects your energy. It sharpens your judgment. It deepens your resilience. And as your resilience grows, you begin to notice something subtle yet profound. You are no longer chasing your desires with tension. You are moving toward them with grounded certainty. And that certainty begins to reshape your reality. There is a final shift that separates those who remain trapped in mental chaos from those who quietly manifest a life they once struggled to imagine. It is the shift from attachment to alignment. Attachment says, I will only feel complete when this happens. Alignment says, I am becoming the kind of person who can handle whatever happens. The difference may sound subtle, but internally it is enormous. When you are attached, every delay feels personal. Every obstacle feels like rejection. Every closed door feels like proof that you are not enough. But when you are aligned, you interpret events differently. A delay becomes preparation. A rejection becomes redirection. A closed door becomes protection. This is not naive optimism. It is disciplined perception. The Stoics trained themselves to interpret reality in ways that preserved strength rather than weakened it. They did not deny hardship. They reframed it so that hardship became fuel instead of poison. And this is where manifestation becomes sustainable. Because sustainable success requires emotional maturity. Anyone can feel motivated for a week. Anyone can act confidently when circumstances are favorable. But can you remain steady when nothing seems to move? Can you maintain discipline when results are invisible? Can you stay calm when others doubt you? This steadiness is rare, and rarity creates value. When your mind is relaxed, you stop living in constant comparison. You no longer measure your timeline against someone else's highlight reel. You understand that growth is individual, nonlinear, deeply personal. Comparison agitates the mind. Clarity quiets it. The more you focus on your own alignment, your habits, your mindset, your consistency, the less distracted you become by external noise. Noise is everywhere. Opinions, expectations, social pressure, cultural timelines, metrics of success that may not even align with your values. If you allow every external voice to enter your mind unchecked, peace becomes impossible. But you have authority over what you internalize. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself repeatedly that other people's judgments are outside his control. Their praise cannot define you. Their criticism cannot diminish you unless you permit it. Relaxing your mind means tightening the gate through which external influence enters, not becoming closed, not becoming indifferent, but becoming discerning. You ask yourself, does this belief serve my growth? Does this opinion deserve my attention? Does this fear reflect reality or insecurity? That questioning creates stability. Stability creates confidence. And confidence changes behavior in subtle but powerful ways. You speak with less urgency. You move with less haste. You decide with more intention. People sense this. It is difficult to explain, but easy to recognize. The person who is not rushing. The person who is not begging for validation. The person who does not panic when plans shift. That presence feels strong. And strength attracts opportunity. Not because the universe is rewarding calmness in some mystical transaction, but because calmness improves perception, communication, and judgment. A relaxed mind notices details others miss. It hears nuance in conversation. It sees potential where others see threat. This awareness multiplies options. Options create freedom. And freedom reduces desperation. When you are no longer desperate, your actions become cleaner. You negotiate without fear of loss. You pursue relationships without fear of abandonment. You work toward goals without fear of humiliation. Fear shrinks expression. Calm expands it. This expansion allows your authentic self to emerge. And authenticity is magnetic. People trust authenticity. They collaborate with it. They invest in it. But authenticity requires internal security. If you are constantly adjusting yourself to gain approval, you cannot relax. You are performing. Performance is exhausting. Alignment is sustainable. The Stoics did not aim to impress society. They aimed to live in accordance with virtue, wisdom, courage, discipline, justice. These were internal standards, not external applause. When your standard becomes internal, your anxiety decreases significantly because now your evaluation of yourself depends on your effort and integrity, not on fluctuating external reactions. This internal shift is liberating. You wake up focused on what you can improve rather than what you can prove. You measure success by progress rather than praise. And as you continue refining yourself calmly, something interesting happens. The things you once chased begin appearing more naturally. Connections deepen. Opportunities arise. Confidence solidifies, not because you force them, but because you prepared yourself for them. Preparation is quiet. It happens in unseen hours, in disciplined mornings, in moments when you choose composure over impulse, in decisions where you choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. These moments may feel insignificant individually, but collectively they reshape identity, and identity shapes destiny. If you see yourself as anxious, life will reflect situations that confirm anxiety. If you see yourself as resilient, you will interpret challenges as manageable. Perception guides behavior. Behavior guides results. This is why relaxing your mind is not the end goal. It is the foundation. From this foundation, disciplined action becomes more powerful. Relationships become healthier. Success becomes sustainable. You stop asking, how can I force this to happen? And start asking, how can I become stronger, clearer, steadier? That question alone transforms your trajectory. Because when you focus on becoming rather than obtaining, obtaining often follows naturally. The Stoics believe that the highest form of power is self-mastery, not dominance over others, not control over fate, but control over perception, reaction, and character. When you master these, external outcomes lose their ability to destabilize you. You act fully, you release gracefully, you persist patiently, and over time, what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable, not because you demanded it, but because you grew into it. This is the secret hidden beneath relaxation, beneath manifestation, beneath philosophy itself. Your outer world stabilizes when your inner world does. Calm your mind, refine your actions, release your attachment, and allow alignment to do what anxiety never could.